Hello, friend. Welcome to History ZZZ. Get comfortable. Let your body settle into wherever you are resting. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Take one slow breath in and let it go. Tonight, I want to take you somewhere. Close your eyes and imagine the flattest land you have ever seen. No hills, no mountains, just horizon in every direction, as far as the eye can reach. The sky above is enormous. The stars are brilliant. The air is warm and carries the smell of water and mud and something flowering. Somewhere ahead on that flat plain, something glows. It is not one light. It is thousands. It is torches and oil lamps and hearth fires spread across miles of riverbank, rising above walls so thick that a chariot can turn around on top of them. It is a sound, low and constant, of a city breathing. You are looking at Babylon. The year is 600 BC. The greatest city on earth lies before you. Come inside. The walls of Babylon are the first thing you would notice. Not the gold, not the temples. The walls. They are 8 meters thick, wide enough that 2 4-horse chariots could pass each other on top without slowing. They rise nearly 25 meters above the plain. The Greek historian Herodotus, who visited the city about 100 years after the time we are visiting, wrote that the walls were the most remarkable thing he had ever seen. He was a man who had traveled widely. The outer wall stretches for 18 kilometers around the city. Inside it, a second wall. Inside that, the city proper. At intervals along the walls, towers rise even higher, watchtowers, garrison posts, places where soldiers stand in the dark and watch the plain in silence. Beyond the walls, the moat. The Euphrates feeds it. It never runs dry. Babylon has survived Assyrian kings, foreign invasions, centuries of war. These walls are why. You enter the city through the Ishtar Gate. Nothing prepares you for it. The gate is perhaps 14 meters tall. Its surface is covered entirely in glazed ceramic bricks, deep lapis lazuli blue, so vivid it looks like the sky has been pressed into the wall. Against that blue, in raised relief, march rows of animals, bulls with curved horns, dragons, the Sirish, mythical creatures with the body of a serpent, the legs of an eagle and a lion, the head of a viper. They march in perfect procession, row after row, going on as far as you can see, 575 of them in all. The gate was built by Nebuchadnezzar II, the king who rules Babylon now. He built it as a dedication to Ishtar, goddess of love and war. Her name is written into the bricks themselves. Beyond the gate, the Processional Way stretches south, lined with more blue glazed walls bearing lions in gold and yellow. This road leads to the great temple. It is the most magnificent entrance to any city in the ancient world. The Processional Way runs south from the Ishtar Gate for nearly a kilometer. It is paved with white limestone and red breccia, the stones fitted so precisely that not a blade of grass grows between them. The road is 12 meters wide enough for a royal procession, wide enough for the New Year festival when the statue of Marduk is carried through the city while thousands watch. Along either side, the walls continue. More glazed lions, more torches in their iron brackets, more guards standing in the pools of firelight. At this hour, the way is quiet. A few figures move along it. A priest in white linen walking with his head bowed, 2 soldiers on patrol, a merchant heading home with an empty handcart, his sandals scraping on the pale stones. Somewhere ahead, the great ziggurat rises above everything. You can see its outline against the stars, each terrace stepping back from the one below it, climbing toward the sky. The Babylonians call it Etemenanki, the foundation of heaven and earth. Etemenanki, the foundation of heaven and earth. It is a ziggurat, a stepped pyramid of mud brick, rising perhaps 90 meters above the plain. 7 terraces, each set back from the one below, each planted with trees and shrubs that trail their roots into the brick and reach their leaves toward the sky. Some scholars believe that Etemenanki is what became the Tower of Babel in the Hebrew scriptures. The Hebrew people were brought to Babylon as captives by Nebuchadnezzar in 597 BC, just a few years before the time we are visiting. They would have seen this structure every day of their captivity. They would have watched it from a distance, its summit hidden in the clouds on rainy days, its terraces tended by priests in white. It would have seemed like something reaching for God. At the very top, a temple. The priests believe that Marduk himself descends to sleep there on holy nights. A bed is made for him. A woman is chosen to wait. The god of the city sleeps at the top of the world. To the north of the Processional Way lies the palace of Nebuchadnezzar. It is enormous, not one building but a complex of buildings, throne rooms, courtyards, audience halls, administrative quarters, storehouses, gardens, 5 separate compounds connected by corridors and colonnaded walkways. The throne room alone is 52 meters long. Its walls are covered in glazed bricks, the same lapis blue as the Ishtar Gate, decorated with bands of palmettes and stylized lotus flowers. When the morning light comes through the high windows and falls on those walls, the room blazes. Nebuchadnezzar has been king for 5 years. He is in his late 30s, a man who has led campaigns from Egypt to the Persian Gulf, who destroyed Jerusalem and brought its people here, who is rebuilding Babylon into something the world has never seen. At this hour, the palace is quiet. The king sleeps. Or perhaps he does not. Perhaps he stands at a window and looks out over the dark city and calculates what he still wants to build. Let us stop here for a moment and speak of the Hanging Gardens. They are one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and we are not entirely sure they existed. Ancient sources describe them, a series of terraced gardens rising above the palace walls, filled with exotic trees and flowers, watered by an ingenious system of pumps that drew water up from the Euphrates. They were said to have been built by Nebuchadnezzar for his wife Amytis, a Median princess who missed the green hills of her homeland and found the flat Babylonian plain oppressive. No Babylonian text mentions them. No archaeological evidence has confirmed their location. Some scholars think they were real, but misattributed. Perhaps they were in Nineveh, not Babylon, built by the Assyrian king Sennacherib. But look up from the palace courtyard. In the warm darkness, above the roofline, there is something green. Something moving slightly in the night breeze. The smell of jasmine, improbably, this far above the river. Perhaps they were real after all. Babylon is a city of water. The Euphrates runs directly through the heart of the city, dividing it into 2 halves connected by a great stone bridge, one of the earliest bridges in the world, its stone piers set deep into the riverbed, its wooden planks worn smooth by 1,000,000 footsteps. From the river, canals branch out through the city like the veins of a leaf. They carry drinking water, irrigation water, sewage, boats. The network is precise and maintained. Dredged each year before the spring floods, the mud piled along the banks where it dries in the sun and is used again for bricks. At night, the canals are still. A few boats are tied up at their wooden docks, flat-bottomed river barges loaded with grain, a smaller reed boat rocking gently against its mooring. The water is dark and carries the reflection of stars. A dog barks somewhere in the residential quarter. Then silence again. Just the sound of water moving. By day, the markets along the canals would be impossible to move through. Babylon sits at the crossroads of the ancient world. The road from Egypt comes through here. The road from Persia. The road that leads eventually to India. Everything that can be bought or sold passes through this city. Cedar from Lebanon, still smelling of the mountain forests. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, the same blue stone that tiles the Ishtar Gate, sold by the gram to jewelers and craftsmen. Tin from the distant north, copper from Cyprus, ivory from Africa, spices from Arabia whose names in the local dialect have no translation. Silver is the currency. Tablets of clay record the transactions. Every deal written down, every debt logged, every payment confirmed. The Babylonians invented double entry accounting. They invented compound interest. At night, the market stalls are closed and locked, but you can still smell it. Cardamom, cedar resin, dried fish, tallow, something sweet and unidentifiable that drifts from a storehouse whose owner has gone home. In a room near the temple precinct, a lamp is still burning. A scribe sits cross-legged on a mat, a clay tablet on a board across his knees, a reed stylus in his right hand. He is copying an old text, very old, perhaps 1,000 years old, pressing the wedge-shaped marks of cuneiform script into the soft clay with a practiced economy of movement. This is how knowledge survives in Babylon, not on papyrus which rots, not on silk which burns, on clay which hardens and endures for millennia. The text he is copying is part of the Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of a king who loses his friend and travels to the ends of the earth seeking immortality, only to be told that the gods kept life for themselves and gave death to mankind. It is the oldest story in the world. It contains a great flood, a man who builds a boat, animals taken aboard 2 by 2. The scribe presses the last wedge into the clay and sets it aside to dry. He blows out the lamp. On a rooftop near the ziggurat, 3 men are watching the sky. They have been doing this for hours. They will do it until dawn. They have been doing it in this city for centuries. The Babylonian astronomers are the best in the ancient world. They have been systematically observing and recording the movements of the stars, the planets, the moon, and the sun for over 500 years. Their records are so precise that modern astronomers still use them. They can predict lunar eclipses. They have identified the 5 visible planets and track their movements across the sky. They have divided the zodiac into 12 equal sections. They have calculated the length of the year to within minutes of the actual value. One of the 3 men on the rooftop is recording tonight's observations on a clay tablet by the light of a small lamp. Venus is in a position he has been tracking for months. He writes down what he sees in the same format as the tablets going back 200 years before him. The sky above him is full of data. The temple of Esagila occupies a vast precinct at the heart of the city. Esagila means the house whose top is high. It is dedicated to Marduk, the chief god of Babylon, the god who, according to the Babylonian creation myth, defeated the chaos monster Tiamat and shaped the world from her body. Stars from her eyes, wind from her mouth, the Tigris and the Euphrates from her tears. At the center of the complex, in the innermost chamber, stands the statue of Marduk. Herodotus describes it as solid gold, a seated figure with a golden throne, a golden footstool, a golden table beside it. He says the Persians calculated the weight of the gold at 800 talents. The priests who tend the statue are awake now, as they always are. They have rituals for midnight, rituals for the 3rd watch of the night, rituals for the moment before dawn. The god is never left alone. Away from the palaces and the temples, Babylon is also ordinary. The residential neighborhoods spread across both banks of the Euphrates. Densely packed mud brick houses, narrow lanes between them, small courtyards open to the sky. The houses are built inward. From the street, you see only a door and a blank wall. Inside, a courtyard where the family's life happens. Cooking, weaving, children sleeping on mats in the warm air. The people of Babylon come from everywhere. Native Babylonians, yes, the descendants of the people who built the first cities here 5,000 years ago. But also Assyrians, Arameans, Phoenicians, Egyptians, Persians, Medes, and for the past few years, a growing community of Jewish exiles from Jerusalem. They speak different languages in the market. They worship different gods. They eat different things. But they live on the same narrow lanes, draw water from the same canals, and sleep under the same enormous stars. In one of those neighborhoods, in a quarter near the Eastern Canal, a group of families sit around a fire that has burned low. They are Jewish. They were brought here 5 years ago when Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem and deported the population of Judah to Babylon. Thousands of people, priests, craftsmen, scribes, farmers, marched across the desert and settled here in the city between the rivers. They were not enslaved. They were resettled. They could own property, practice trades, move through the city. Some of them would eventually rise to positions of influence at the Babylonian court, but they missed home. They wrote about it later. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. One of the men at the fire is younger than the others. He is a scribe. He is writing something. He is trying to hold on to something that feels like it is slipping away in this enormous foreign city. He is writing what he remembers of the old stories. Let us go to the river. The Euphrates at night is black and slow. It is a wide river, wider than you might expect. It moves with the patient authority of something that has been doing this for a very long time. The great bridge lies to your left, its stone piers rising from the water, the wooden planks pale in the moonlight. A night watchman stands at the near end, leaning on his spear. From here you can see the whole skyline. The ziggurat, always the ziggurat, rising above everything. The wall of the palace, the dark mass of the temple precinct, the silhouettes of the residential quarters stretching away on both banks. The Euphrates has been flowing past this place since before Babylon existed. It will flow here long after the last brick has crumbled. Civilizations rise and fall like the river rises and falls, with the seasons, with the rains, with forces that do not particularly notice the buildings on the bank. But tonight, the city stands, and it is magnificent. There is a stele in the city, a black diorite column nearly 2.5 meters tall, carved with text from top to bottom. It was erected by Hammurabi, king of Babylon, about 1,200 years before the time we are visiting. At the top, a carved relief shows Hammurabi standing before the sun god Shamash, receiving the laws. Below, in cuneiform text, are 282 laws. They cover everything: property disputes, marriage, adoption, wages. The duties of builders: a builder whose house collapses and kills the owner shall be put to death. The duties of innkeepers, the rights of slaves, the rates of interest on silver loans. Some of the laws seem harsh by modern standards. Some seem surprisingly fair. The idea running through all of them, that a society needs written rules that apply to everyone, that a king must be accountable to a standard beyond his own will, is not a small idea. It is, in some ways, the idea that civilization runs on. Everything in Babylon is made of clay. The bricks in the walls, fired hard and sometimes glazed. The tablets that hold the laws and the contracts and the star charts and the stories. The drain pipes under the streets, the water jars in the courtyards, the small figurines placed in niches to protect the household. Clay is what this land has in abundance. The alluvial plain of Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, has almost no stone, almost no timber. But it has clay in infinite supply, and it has water to work it, and it has sun to fire it. The people who first settled here 10,000 years ago had to invent almost everything from scratch because they had so little to work with. They invented agriculture, irrigation, writing, mathematics, cities, law, astronomy, literature. They did it in mud. There is something in that worth sitting with for a moment. Babylon has 8 gates. Each one is dedicated to a god. The Ishtar Gate, which you entered through to the north, the Marduk Gate, the Enlil Gate, the Adad Gate, the Shamash Gate, named for the sun, the Urash Gate, the Sin Gate, named for the moon god, the Zababa Gate. Each night, as darkness falls, the gates are closed and barred. The city seals itself. The world outside, the desert, the plain, the roads leading away to distant empires, becomes abstract, theoretical. Inside the walls, there is the city. There is lamplight. There is the smell of cooking and cedar and the river. There are a million people breathing together in the dark. The guards at the gates will stand their watch until dawn, when the gates will open again and the world will come pouring back in. Merchants and messengers and travelers and farmers with their grain. But for now, it is night. The gates are closed. Babylon holds its breath. Babylon will not last forever. 40 years from now, in 539 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia will march his army to the walls of Babylon. He will not need to besiege it. According to some accounts, a faction within the city will open a gate for him. The Persians will take Babylon without a battle. Cyrus will enter through the Ishtar Gate, and the city will cheer. He will not destroy it. Babylon under Persian rule will continue to be one of the greatest cities in the world. Alexander the Great will take it from the Persians 200 years later, and he will love it so much that he will plan to make it the capital of his empire. He will die there in 323 BC at 32 years old. After Alexander, the city will decline slowly. The population will scatter. The canals will silt up. The great mud brick buildings will dissolve back into the earth they came from. The Euphrates will shift its course. By the time of Christ, Babylon will be a ruin. But some things survived. The clay tablets, fired by the city's own destruction fires, became harder and more permanent. Hundreds of thousands of them lie in the ground at the site of ancient Babylon near the modern Iraqi city of Hilla. Many have been excavated, many have been translated. They contain contracts, letters, astronomical records, medical recipes, mathematical exercises, love poems, hymns, lists of kings. The Epic of Gilgamesh survived on 12 clay tablets, found in the ruins of Nineveh in the 19th century. When scholars translated it and found the flood story, the ark, the animals, the dove sent out to find dry land, the discovery shook the Victorian world. The Babylonians had been telling this story for 1,000 years before it was written into the Hebrew scriptures. The clay remembered everything. It is late. The city around you has grown quiet. The lamps in the houses are going out one by one. The last of the market-goers have long since found their beds. The priests are saying their midnight prayers. The Euphrates moves steadily through the dark, carrying the sky on its back. Tomorrow, the city will begin again. The gates will open. The merchants will set up their stalls. The scribes will press their styluses into fresh clay. The astronomers will sleep until dusk and then climb back to their rooftops. But that is tomorrow. Right now, there is only the sound of the river, and the wind moving through the gardens above the palace walls, and the enormous, patient stars. Let the city settle around you. You are in Babylon, and it is enough. Thank you for spending this night in Babylon. The city between the rivers existed for more than 2,000 years. It was at its height the largest city on earth, the center of a civilization that gave the world writing and law and mathematics and astronomy and literature. It dissolved back into the mud it came from, but it left its marks in the stories we still tell, in the stars we still name, in the very idea that a city is a place where people from everywhere can live together under shared rules. Sleep well. The clay will remember.